St. John of the Cross, I believe, is the one who coined the phrase, the dark night of the soul. If you live long enough, you'll be there. It's those difficult, dark times in life when it seems as though God is not present and not speaking. And it's in those dark times that we have to choose by faith to trust what we already know is true about God. Because we know his character by how he has revealed himself in his word. I immediately thought of Daniel as I thought about this. Daniel, taken as a teenager into Babylon in the first wave of captivity in about 605 BC. He was taken and he was probably made a eunuch, but from the very beginning, he refused to compromise on how God had called his people to live separate while still in the world. He wouldn't even compromise on what he ate, and yet he was submissive enough of authority to ask permission. And God blessed his willingness to submit to authority, and God granted him favor, and he was able to live in Babylon as an Israelite, as a Jew, obeying even God's dietary laws. But he also would go to his room and open the windows toward Jerusalem 3 times a day and pray. And he was seeking God and seeking for God to restore his people back to their land and to enable them to be faithful where they were. And we know from some of his prayers, he would confess the sins of his people. He stood in the gap on their behalf. So when the big test came, it wasn't a test. When some people tricked the king into signing a decree that anyone who prays to anybody other than him would be thrown into the lion's den, it wasn't even a decision for Daniel because it's what he did daily to honor the Lord. And because he did it daily, when the big test came, there was no test. He just did what he knew was right to do. And because he went to his room and opened the windows and began to pray, he's trapped. We can trap him in his devotion to his God because they knew he would not waver on that. And he's thrown into the lion's den. And the king can't sleep. He's crying out to Daniel's God to save him. And at daybreak, what does he do? He runs back to the lion's den. Daniel, has the God you served saved you? Yes, O king, don't worry. My God sent an angel who closed the mouth of the lion. Because Daniel was faithful daily. The big test wasn't a test. He was able to be faithful in the face of death. And so I want to encourage you. We're in Bible study. We encourage each other to be in the Word daily, to have a system, a plan for reading through the Word of God. But every single day, do what Daniel did. Honor the Lord. Spend time in his presence. Have a time that you set aside to be in his word, to pray, to get in on what God is doing, so that then when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you will fear no evil because your God is with you. You've gotten to know him on a daily basis before the dark night of the soul. So when the dark night of the soul comes, and it will, and you can't hear God, you can't sense God, you know he's there because of his word and because of his faithfulness in the past, and you continue to do what you know is right. And at some point, there will be daybreak when God says, okay, come out of the ark. It's time. It's time. I'm going to recreate what I have destroyed.